Welcome back, team, for the day 2 session of performance testing using Loadrunner. Let's have a quick look at the agenda. So the agenda basically does have a quick recap of day 1, and there's a switch on the application under test. I'll explain what it is. And third one is understanding workflow of the test run using Loadrunner. So recap of day 1, we did look at what is the modus operandi, how we operate at ITeLearn to make the participants well equipped with all the tools to get through the interviews in performance testing using Loadrunner. And we did also discuss what are the prerequisites to attend this training and who can opt this training as well. And we had a quick walkthrough of the content, which we are going to discuss in detail session by session all through the course. And then we picked the sample project and we did complete the effort on the manual testing side as of creating the scenarios for performance testing and writing the test scripts. That exercise we did pretty much complete on day 1. So the second point in the agenda is application under test. So there's a change or switch in the application under test. We have a live project which we did show yesterday, and we had created the scenarios on the live project, which is nothing but our classifieds application. So there are a couple of requests yesterday through the chat from the participants asking to work on the basic Mercury Tours website just for the understanding of the workflow. So for day 2, only today, because we will be focusing much on understanding the overview of different components in Loadrunner and the workflow of the test run, we are going to switch back to Mercury Tours website. However, from day 3 onwards, we'll jump back to our live project. Why did I say live project? You can directly pick that project and keep it in your resume, and whatever the activities that you perform as a part of training here during the course, during the training, you can straight away add them as responsibilities in your resume for that particular project. That will make your life easy through when you go to the interviews, because most of the questions will be asked from your responsibilities in your profile or in your resume. And those responsibilities are nothing but your day-to-day activities during the training. So that's why we tend to go on to the live project. However, small projects will be picked upon depending upon a need basis. It will be on a need basis. So just for day 2, we'll switch back to the Mercury Tours website, and from day 3 onwards, we'll jump back to our own application on the live project classifieds, and we'll carry on with our project activities. So today we'll try to understand the workflow of the test run. So we'll try to create some scenarios. We'll try to create scripts using virtual user generator and run script. So there are 3 components as such for Loadrunner. To launch the Loadrunner, there is a separate session where we will be discussing about the infrastructure, how to install Loadrunner, how to install the application, and other infrastructure like the web servers and all that stuff. What is a web server, how to install that, all these details will be discussed separately in a session. So no need to worry about the infrastructure as of now. So for today, try to understand the workflow of the test run and the different components of Loadrunner. Whatever the infrastructure is there that we're going to see as a part of today's session, will be discussed in detail, and we will help you to install the same in a separate session. Having said that, we'll move on to Loadrunner. You can find it in Programs, Start Programs, Loadrunner once you install it, and then click on the Loadrunner. So this gives a license information. So there are three components here. One is create or edit scripts, which is nothing but your virtual user generator. So this space here, it's nothing but your virtual user generator. So it will help you So basically it will help you to create the scripts, and then we'll look at the second point, which is nothing but your run load tests. This is nothing but the controller, and the third one is analyzing the results. This piece we have discussed yesterday, however we will be seeing that practically today. So the virtual user generator basically talks about, which basically helps us in creating the script, and the controller will help us in the scenario creation and running the script as well. And the third one is the Loadrunner analysis tool, which will help us analyze the script. Having said that, we'll move on to Loadrunner. And even before that, as I told you, there's a switch of application under test just for today. It's only for day 2 team. So let's try to understand the application, Mercury Tours website application quickly. So go to Loadrunner, and in that you have samples and you have web, and in that first you need to start the web server. So it seems that some other port. The port has been. So once you do that, you can see the icon here. It says that we are already running that. So I'll show you that again. You terminate it here, go back to programs, and then Loadrunner, go to samples, go to web, start web server. For those who doesn't have any idea of what is a web server and all that stuff, we will have a detailed session on the infrastructure implementation, that is installation and the terminology behind that. So no need to worry as of now. Okay, so start web server. It will start the web server for you, which will be used for launching your web application or your website. So you can see that here. So this icon basically tells you that yes, your web server is running. Okay, and then go back to Loadrunner programs, start programs, Loadrunner, and then go to samples. You have the HP Web Tours application. So this application is a sample application provided by HP, and this will help us to book the tickets, flight tickets. It's a simple application which will help us to book the flight tickets. So you have to register for that, but for now we'll go with the defaults, and we have a default username and password. Jojo is the username and password is Bean. You can use that for the time being. So here you will have different options as a flights, itinerary, and then go to home, sign off. Sign off will help you to get out of the application. So we'll look at flights today. So once you click on flights, find flight should be displayed. So you need to select the departure city, and I'll select the arrival city as Los Angeles, and you need to select the departure date, return date, number of passengers, and all the other details as well. So once you're done with filling all these details, click on the continue button. It will display a list of, this is the table, flight table. So whatever list of flights are there, those will be displayed here. You can select any of these, or you can go with the default one if you're okay. Say continue button, and then you'll be on the payment details page. You need to give the payment details, your credit card number, expiry date as such, and first name, last name likewise, and the billing address as well. So once you're done with that, click on continue. It will book the ticket for you. So that's it. We'll sign off. So what did we do now? We did sign into the application, and then we did click on flights. Find flights page got displayed, and then we did select, we did give the information, and then we moved on to payment details, and then we got the invoice displayed for that payment, and we logged off. It's a simple scenario. So we'll try to use this for the Loadrunner. So similar to the exercise what we have done from the manual testing effort side to create the performance scenarios, we have to do a similar exercise before jumping onto Loadrunner. So just to save the time, because this was discussed yesterday on a different application, just to save the time, I had created this one for you. We'll have a quick 5-minute walkthrough of this, and then we'll start our Loadrunner. So as said before yesterday, scenario is the one which does have scripts and users. Okay, a scenario is nothing but a scenario in performance testing world, or in Loadrunner, let's be precise. It can be said as script or scripts plus VUsers. So what is a VUser? A VUser is a virtual user. A VUser is a virtual user. So what's the necessity of a virtual user? If you look at the website which we did discuss just a few seconds back, that website is a tours website. If you have a real-time application like that, and if you want to select a particular flight and book the flight and do your itinerary, make the payments, just imagine how many people will be simultaneously or concurrently accessing the same application across the world. Or else if you look at an application like Facebook, just imagine how many hits would be on a particular feature like uploading photos or login, the basic login, or something else like posting something on your page, on your home page. If you take a simple example of posting or uploading a photo in Facebook at a particular instance of a day, can you imagine how many users will be doing the same thing across the world? It will be in thousands and beyond that even. So if there is a single application which does demand the concurrent usage, and if you are supposed to test it, we can't, it ideally happens in the virtual world, and if you want to be realistic, you have to deploy thousands and thousands of users on thousands and thousands of machines, and you should ask them to click at the same time the same button, or the same you should enter the same value, which is ideally practically not possible, or we can say impractical. and it does involve in huge costs. So what we do is we will opt a tool like Loadrunner or New Test, or else we can say Rational Performance Tester from IBM. Such tools, you can opt the tool which will mimic the real-time scenario. It will work, it will post the comment for you on the home page, it will upload the photo for you on the home page, it will book the tickets when it comes to the travel websites for you instead of you. It will mimic your actions, which is nothing but it will mimic the user actions basically. So a virtual user is mimicking the real world user and doing the same transactions. So instead of 1,000 users, deploying 1,000 users on 1,000 missions, you can use one single machine where you can go for or opt for this tool, Loadrunner or some other performance testing tool, which will mimic the real-time scenario, and 1,000 users will be doing here. Those are virtual users doing the same transaction as that of the real time. So having said that, VUser is a virtual user mimicking the real world user and doing the same transaction as the real world user does. So the number of users, so this is the probable amount of or probable number of users you can expect on your application at a particular instance on a particular feature in the real time. So where do you get these details from? Basically, you will get the details from your requirement document of the non-functional requirements of the application. In turn, if you go back in the traceability, those will be pulled from the market survey or existing statistics of number of hits likewise for your product. And again, traffic or execution time, we did discuss this yesterday. This is the time which a particular user spends on a particular feature. So then again, we had written some scripts yesterday for that application, classifieds application. However, for day 2, we had a switch onto the Mercury Tours website, and we had a quick walkthrough of the functionality or feature of the application. So we have 3 scripts here. One scenario is book ticket, 3 scripts here: login, book ticket, and logout. The first one is test script description. For the login is, it is used to validate the login functionality. So step 1, we log into Mercury Tours website with valid credentials, and the expected result here is the user should log in successfully. The second script is book ticket, which basically involves steps in booking the ticket. We clicked on flights button, we did expect the find flight page to display, and we give the data and we expect the flight table with the flights should get displayed. There are a couple of questions from the chat window. Those questions will be answered towards the end of the session. So having said that, let's get back to the script here. So click on continue button. The payment details page should get displayed. Once you enter the payment details and click on continue button, your invoice should get displayed. Invoice page with the invoice details should get displayed. Okay. So once you're done with booking the ticket, you're logging out. So you can write one single script, say book ticket, without this login logout separately listed out here, and you can include these steps if you look from a functional testing perspective. However, we'll see why we did segregate these 3. So this is how you write your script. Even before that, you need to identify the scenario from your requirements and then scripts. And team, as I told you yesterday, as far as performance testing is concerned, 80 to 90% in the real world we will target at the happy path. Happy path is nothing but the direct flow of the script. Here, if you look at the functional testing, from the functional testing perspective, if you look at not only valid data, we'll try to give invalid data and we'll try to verify that as well. Whether we're getting the error messages, whether some other deviation is there or not, that will be identified. We try giving different sets of data, but here we'll go with the valid flow or the direct flow, which is nothing but happy path in performance testing. So let's get back to the Loadrunner. The first one is create or edit scripts which will launch the virtual user generator. We call it as VuGen. So this will help us to create the scripts. So you can click on new VuGen script for a new script creation, or else if you have an existing script, you can just click on the existing script name, or else you can open the existing script from a specific location in your machine. Okay, we'll create a new script for today. So once you click on the new script button, new VuGen script button, you will get to see a window where it will list out all the protocols. So what is a protocol? A protocol in the language of Loadrunner is nothing but the language used to communicate with the server. The language the client uses to communicate with the server. For those who doesn't know what is a client and what is a server, no need to worry. For the time being, it's like the client sends the request and the server responds back. Okay, to give a simple example, from your Facebook, if you click on post, or else from your Yahoo Mail, if you try to log in, you give the username password somewhere in US, the server responds back. Okay, we'll get into details at a later point in a different session. So having said that, these are the protocols, and protocols in the as per Loadrunner is nothing but languages or language used to communicate with the server. Okay, having said that, there are different popular protocols. You can list out all the protocols which Loadrunner does support. These are all the protocols. You can see VB script over here. If you are working with a scripting application, you can see Java based protocols for Java based applications. You have DB2 and we have others as well. So we'll look at the popular protocols. So these are the most used, and out of that we will be using the HTTP protocol. We'll look at the other protocols as well, but not now. Towards the end of the course, we'll try to understand a couple of other protocols as well. But HTTP is the protocol which is being widely used, and most of the interviews you'll get questions on HTTP protocol. And yes, there's an added advantage or a benefit if you know other protocols as well. So we'll try to work on one or two other protocols as well towards the end of the course. So having said that, this is single protocol. We have one more tab called multiple protocols. Say if your application does involve some COM components and also SQL Server and also your web. So you need to select all those protocols because your application demands COM, DCOM. Application does have COM, DCOM, okay, components, and it's a web application, let me say, or else it interacts with another application which is a website, and at the back end you have SQL Server. So you need to pull multiple protocols Okay, we'll see that at a later point in detail. For the time being, it's for your understanding. Okay, so we'll go with the single protocol. So in the left side tasks pane, you can see you can record a script, replay the script, do some enhancements. So this is the area where most of your course content lies. So enhancing the scripts, we will be covering basically what is parameterization, what are transactions, and constant checks. And again, we'll talk about correlation. We talk about automation in correlation and manual correlation as well. And here we'll talk about the scripting. So basically, Loadrunner does support C, C++, Java, TSL likewise, but we will be picking C. It's being the easiest one, let's say. So we'll have a session on understand the intricacies of C. So what are the different variables and what are pointers, what are exceptions, how to handle how to enhance your script using C. All those will be discussed in one of the session. Okay, so this is the area, again I'm just insisting, where most of your course content will go. Okay, having said that, we'll try to quickly record a scenario. So record, I'll say start recording. See here, you're supposed to give the URL address so that virtual user generator, or VuGen we call it as, will launch the website for us. And you can see record into action. There are three here. First one is virtual user initialize. So the first one is used to initialize your application, or you can use that to launch your application and log into your application. Okay, and the second one is action, which basically is your main script. Like in our case, it's booking the flight ticket, and the vUser end would be our logout. Okay, having said that, I'll start with the vUser init, and we have a couple of options which we need to look at. These are the recording options. So you can check or uncheck on any particular options. Close all AUT processes when recording stops. So when recording stops, you are asking the application under test processes to be closed. Okay, so since we are having the trial version, we can see only C language here. We can go with the others as well if you look at a licensed version. So generate fixed think time after end transaction is one more property in the recording option for the scripts. So think time is nothing but the time taken by an end user between any two transactions. So what is a think time? A think time is time taken by the end user, one who uses the application, between any two transactions. So generate the recorded events log. It will generate a log for you. Generate think time greater than threshold. We'll talk about this in detail in later sessions because it does have some prominence. Maximum number of lines in the action file. So this talks about the script code, are the lines of code in this script. Okay, you can set this to 6,000, or you can even limit this to 600 or 60 as well. We can change that. Okay, so this we'll also discuss in detail at a later point. So there are protocols. We did select the protocols, and recording option. Recording can be done as HTML based script. Okay, it generates a step for each user actions, whereas URL based will be generating, it will be using the requests and resources from the server. It records all the requests and resources from the server. Okay, it's mostly used when we go for specific applications, and in common or in generic we'll go for HTML based script only. Okay, having said that, we'll just say okay, because we'll see this port mapping and some advanced properties at a later point. Correlation and advanced, these are topics which we need to discuss at a later point. Okay, so for now we'll try to understand what is there in the script. So this is our website. We are asking no need to worry about this error message. It's something with Microsoft Office in my machine. So we'll quickly log in. Dozo is the username and the password is bean. Same side, you click on the caps lock. Jojo and bean. So flights, select the flight. It's as per the script that we had written that I'm doing this particular operation or this particular test. So I give all the remaining details. I'll make it as a round trip and click on continue. It did return you the flight information, the tables for Denver to Los Angeles and back as well on the return trip. So click on continue button. So you need to give the payment details, and here we got the invoice. We are done with that and we sign off. So we'll quickly do this exercise again. Go back to the start page and start a new user. Pick the protocol, record application, start recording, pick the init script, say OK. When you say OK, it will launch the application for us, which is nothing but the Mercury Tours website. So give the, and here give the username and password. I'll say login. So this is your login. We'll move on to the main script now. Flights. I'll say Denver and Los Angeles because this is the data we are giving in as per the script written in the manual testing scenario, and we give all the remaining details as well. Click on continue and then again continue. Take the defaults, give the default payment details, continue, and then we are done with the main script. We will go to the VUser end action, which is nothing but our sign off. So once you are done with that, so stop the recording. It will generate the recording summary for us. So if you could see, this is nothing but the snapshot of the page on which we did work just now, and we have three actions here: the init and the action and the end. Three scripts. Basically we can say this is the login script, this is the book ticket script, and this is nothing but your logout script. Okay, and the protocol which we did use here is HTTP. So we are done with recording the application. We'll quickly see what it is. So this is your script. So if you look at the init script, basically it talks about the login. No need to worry much about what the code is being displayed here, team. We will get into the details in later session. Line by line we'll try to understand what it is, and we have a set of reserved words which comes with Loadrunner. We'll try to understand them as well. We'll pick examples and we'll be doing assignments. So for the time being, just make a note that this script will help you to give the username Jojo and password, and click on these coordinates on the login button. Okay, and here comes your main script. If you click on this action, this is nothing but your main script where you're trying to give the flight details, and then you're submitting the form. This is from, this is to, likewise, and outbound flight, return flight details you had given. You had given the payment details as well, and you had submitted that form as well. So this is your main script. Once you're done with that, we'll go to the logout script. Okay, so this is why we had divided the manual testing script into 3 areas. So this constitutes your scenario. So this is your, and globals are nothing but the global variables. We'll get into details at a later point. So VUser is our initial script, and action is our main script, and then the end script is nothing but logout. Most of the cases will have login as the init and logout as the end. And in an action, you can have multiple scripts as well. Okay. So the second one in the tasks pane is replay. So we have the recording summary displayed. Once the recording is done, we'll see the replay. Start replay. It will run for us, the application for us, and it will give you the summary of the same, whether the script got passed or failed. Okay. So no errors detected. It's a complete pass. There are no defects or there are no errors as well. No runtime errors were detected. Okay, so if you could see the comparison here, this is the one which we are expecting at the time of recording. This is the one which is being captured, and this is the actual pace that is being captured at the time of replay. Okay, so if there is no difference between what is expected and what is actual, it's nothing but the step got passed. Likewise, if at all, if you get to see all the comparisons or all the comparisons between the expected and actual, we will see the script getting passed. Okay, and here this is recording and this is replay. So we can look at the replay log as well, and this does give you what got started when, with a date timestamp as well, and what had happened. It's talking about the iterations as well. Okay, so if you go to runtime settings, it will help you to identify what are the options that Loadrunner provides as runtime settings. So pacing is the one which talks about the iteration. Okay, so as soon as the previous iteration ends, you need to start a new iteration, or else if you want to give a fixed number with a delay of a fixed time, you can go for the second option. Okay, and the third option as well with a specific interval. So this is how you can set your number of iterations. Okay, and this is about logging. So think time we did discuss, right? So ignore think time is something that it will ignore, but replay think time you can, if at all, if the objects are loading a bit slow, then your think time will come into picture. Okay, we'll see how to apply this think time at a later point. Intentionally we will be targeting some of the areas in the application of the live project, and we will use the think time over there. Okay, and there is something called speed simulation. So speed simulation basically helps us to set the bandwidth that is available. Okay, by default we will be using the maximum bandwidth. So we can have the browser emulations as well. So we can check the behavior on different browsers which are being supported. For now, Mozilla 4.0, it's because 9.0 is the version which we are working on, and it's 11 is the latest one. We'll get to see how to work on 11 as well. Like a few sessions will be on 9 and few sessions will be on 11 to understand the latest features as well. Okay, these are some of the runtime settings which we need to understand while understanding the basic overview or the basic test run flow. So the first step is, if you look at the test flow, what we did, test workflow, or you can say test run flow. You can say test run flow or workflow. It seems there's a question from the audience, from the participant. Team, we will address the questions in a few minutes. So workflow will help us understand. First point what we done here is recording the script, which is nothing but user actions. Okay. And second one, what you did, you had replayed the script and verified for any deviations. Okay, and the third one is enhancements. As I told you, team, enhancements is the area where most of your course content will go. So we are not going to enhance the script today, but we'll look at that at a later point. So once you're done with this, you can prepare for the load here, or else you can switch on to your controller to prepare the load here. Okay, you can set up the number of iterations you want to run the script. As I told you earlier, or else you can even talk about number of virtual users. Okay, so it's asking us to save the script. So book tickets is my name of the script. So here it's trying to create a scenario. We'll try to understand goal-oriented scenario versus manual scenario at a later point, but for the time being we will take manual scenario. So here you can by default set the number of users, virtual users. I'll say 7 or 8. Okay, and where do you want to generate the loads? Okay, we will talk in detail about load generator, but for the time being what you need to understand is a load generator is nothing but it will generate the number of virtual users, or you can say it will generate the load on different machines. Okay, for the time being we took localhost and we have a result directory as well. So this will launch your controller, which is the second component. So where are we now? We are on creating the scenario creation. Okay, we are done with the script creation using virtual user generator. Now we are on the Loadrunner controller, the second component of Loadrunner. Okay, you can see the number of virtual users here. This quantity is nothing but your virtual users, and where the load is being generated, the load will be equally distributed. If you take a real-time scenario, and if you have say 1,000 users and you want to run them on 10 remote machines, so 10 remote machines, each one accommodating 100 users, what you'll be doing is you'll distribute the load, and this load generator will help you distribute the load on 10 machines, the 1,000 users load. Okay, and the other component here is scheduler, how to schedule the scenario. One is that you can group or you can go with the scenario. Okay, run until complete is least opted option. Okay, And there are scenarios where we'll go for that also, we'll see that. And the other one is this schedule graph. Okay, so we'll just try to understand how to schedule this. So initialize the virtual user. Okay, so do you want to initialize all the virtual users simultaneously? It's asking us, do you want to initialize all the virtual users simultaneously? If it is an yes, it will invoke all the virtual users and they'll start working at the same time. Or else you can initialize one virtual user every 15 seconds. So what happens if you select this? And if you select this, if you select this, what happens? One virtual user is initialized for every 15 seconds, or initialize each virtual user just before it runs. So even before running the virtual users, see, there are two concepts here. One is initializing. It's something like you're waking up someone and you're asking him or her to run. Okay, so waking up is nothing but your initialize, and running is nothing but you're starting the view users. Okay, so I'll initialize all the virtual users at one time, and then, so this is all about the schedule. Start the virtual users. Do you want to start all the virtual users simultaneously, or you want to start one or two or three virtual users every 15 seconds, or every 1 hour 15 seconds? You can say, you can select minutes as well, 1 minute. So every 1 minute you can say, or else you can just say every 5 seconds I want to start one user. Okay, I'll say apply. So now you can see the trend here. The trend got changed on the graph. So if you change the start view users, this will get changed. You can see every 15 seconds one user will get added. So every 15 seconds one user will get added here. Okay, so this is how. There's something called service level agreement. We'll get into details at a later point. So this is how you will schedule your scenario using Loadrunner controller, which is the second component. The first component is virtual user generator. Use it to create and replay the scripts, enhance the scripts. Second is to schedule and to create the scenarios. Okay, and a third component is there, which we will be looking at in a few seconds. So once you're done with this, you can add the view users as well. So you can initializing and running can be set from here. You can directly run manually. Okay, you can ask him to gradually stop once. So this is initializing, which we did talk about a few minutes back, and then it will start running. Okay, you can gradually stop it, or else you can stop it at one instance. Okay, so once we are done with this, we can quickly run the scenario. So it's running the scenario for us with 8 virtual users on the local host machine. There's only one machine on which we are working right now. So every 1 second you're ramping up one virtual user. You can see how many, every 15 seconds you're ramping up one virtual user. You can see how many virtual users are running at a particular instance. It's 28 now. So if you add 15 seconds, 30 plus 15, 45, it will get changed to 6 virtual users. It's based on the setting that we had given earlier. So likewise it will run 8 users for us, because 8 is the one which we did set earlier. So here in the meanwhile, if you look at the graphs, available graphs, these are running view users. okay, versus time, number of users that you are increasing versus time. Okay, every 15 seconds you're ramping up one user. Okay, I'm just stopping the scenario for the best benefit of the time. So the other scenario, the other graph here is the number of hits per second, and the other one is throughput. So what is a throughput? Throughput is nothing but it displays the amount of data the users receives from the server at any given second on the web server during the load test. So we'll just try to quickly write that as well. So throughput is nothing but it displays the amount of data the users will receive or received, we can say, from the server, okay, on the web server at any given second. So this is your throughput. There's a reason behind team why I am listing down all these here. So you can get into more details of the understanding of the graphs using the Loadrunner analysis tool. So you can click on this, or you can go for tools and say analysis. So it will load the test for you and it will give the graphs. So if you go to tools and say Loadrunner analysis tool, it will launch the analysis tool for you. From there you need to open the test. Whereas if you go to results and say analyze the results, it will automatically load the test, the current test for you. So these are all the different graphs. So this will talk about the virtual users versus time. Okay, how many virtual users are getting added based on the time, the ramp up time, what we call it as, or else the ramp down time. Okay, and number of hits per second. This will give you the number of hits per second. Based on this, your application performance will be decided. It's one factor, not the only factor, but it's one factor. And throughput, we had discussed that it displays the amount of data the users receives from the server on the web server. Okay, at any particular instance or at any given second. So this is the transaction summary. So this is the action transaction, the main script. This is the end script, and this is the initial script. So average transaction response time. Okay, there is something called adding transactions, which we'll see later in the later sessions. So this is where we'll be analyzing the results. What all it does demand is a basic understanding of Loadrunner concepts and good analytical skills. The first part will be dealt during the training in the course, and the second part, anyways, you're good at that. So no need to worry much looking at all those graphs and all that stuff. But if you work on one single application, it will be a cakewalk for you. It will be a piece of cake for you. Okay. So what did we do now? Replayed the script. If you look at the workflow, then we went to scenario creation, added users, scheduled scenario, and then we load generation also, and then we ran the scenario, and finally we analyzed the results. So that is your basic workflow, and most of the course content will go around enhancing the script and the remaining content will more or less will be the same, except for the fact that you need to understand the terminology and the tools and menus which comes up with different components, all the three components: virtual user generator, analysis, and controller. Again, virtual user generator, controller, and analysis, what they are for and how to use them, and different protocols for different languages. So all these things, if you are well equipped with those basics, the analysis part is nothing but your analytical skills. Okay, so it's pretty much easy basically. Loadrunner, why I don't know, people say that it's a bit tough. Only thing is that you need to understand the basics of Loadrunner and the terminology and all that stuff, and on the top of that you need to be a bit analytical, so that while giving the results report, the report will be based on your graphs. So you should be in a position to analyze these graphs. Okay, having said that, we are pretty much done with today's session. We'll try to address a couple of questions here. So whatever the terminology that we came across, we had listed out. So this you can, use for at the time of interviews as well, because this will help you along with the traditional definition that we give in the reference material. This classroom material or classroom running notes will help you to give the definition in common language, which will create a great impact on the interviewer. This will help you impress the interviewer, saying that yes, this guy did work on Loadrunner. Okay, so that's the intent behind this, and it will help you to identify the FAQs as well. So we'll quickly look at these questions that were asked. How to pass the parameters, we'll see this at a later point, no need to worry. Can I run QTP and Loadrunner in Windows 8? Windows 7 does support QTP 11. Okay, people haven't yet migrated to Windows 7 if you talk about the real-time scenario. So if you keep experience, or if you say that you have experience in working on Windows 8, people will not consider your resume or profile. Okay, now people are just migrating in the real world. If you look at the organizations or companies, 20 to 30% they are migrating their applications onto Windows 7. So Windows 8 is a far away, is a distance thing to think about. So can you please share today's training video and share the links? Yes, it will be on ITeLearn, and you can find it on YouTube as well. And if the Wi-Fi or internet connection is slow, load test can get failed. See, we did see an option where we can set the bandwidth, so that will help us. It might get slowed, but failing will not be the case until it's very less. You can still have the bandwidth setting options. Okay, so those are the questions. Having said that, thanks for your time, team. Thanks a lot for being here. Hope we'll see in the next session.